Hello, viewers. I'm Shailly Kapoor, and I'm currently at the coveted valedictory tech showcase organized by AIC CCMB. I have a very, very distinguished guest here, Dr. Vinay Nandicoori, who is the Director, CSIR, Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology. I always make mistake in pronouncing and the whole thing. So a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
So any thoughts after the morning roundtable session? That's how I would begin it.
Atal Incubation Center, AIC, what we call it, AIC CCMB, actually has done a lot of work during COVID. And in that context, the morning roundtable discussion was about some of the work that they have done with the help of AICccmb. And this was part of their corporate social responsibility contributions to AIC CCMB. Some startups have been supported through this particular program, and this has certainly benefited in terms of the way they were doing for the COVID, certainly contributed to how the COVID research or COVID diagnostics and other things were going on at the time. So roundtable discussion was to showcase what has been done during that times with the support that was provided, and to see if such programs can be taken forward in, not in terms of COVID anymore, but maybe other things, because startup culture in India is now really deep rooted. And last 5 years have changed the ecosystem in India. Thereby, I think what we have witnessed is acceleration of the startup system, startup culture during the COVID times. Now it is important for us to sustain. And such kind of roundtable discussions are our basically efforts to make sure that these startup ecosystem in India is sustained with the support of CSR funding and otherwise.
Tell me a little bit about CSIR first.
See, CSIR is an organization that was started in 1942, before independence. And since then, number of labs have been added to this. And at this point of time, there are 37 labs, CSIR labs across India. Hyderabad alone has 3 laboratories next to each other: IICT, CCMB, and NGRI. And so these labs work on varied aspects. So we have labs starting from road research all the way to deep molecular biology like we do. So we have labs in engineering. We have labs working on computer. We have aeronautics lab. We have a national physical laboratory. And then we have an NCL, which is chemical laboratory, and IICT. And then we have CCMB, which is molecular biology laboratory. And we have a drug research laboratory named CDRI. And we have another laboratory that is looking at genomics called IGIB, and a particular lab called Microbial Technology Lab, IMTech. And, there are IIIM, which is integrated medicine. So there are many labs across, and there are approximately 7 to 8 labs which are core working on biology aspects. In addition to that, there are many labs which peripherally also work on various biological aspects. So many labs of CSIR are contributing to biology research, engineering research, as well as research in chemistry, and interestingly, even road research.
Talk a little bit about road research.
Really not exactly my cup of tea.
Talk to me about the partnership or the synergy between CSIR and AIC CCMB.
So CCMB is an organization that was set up way back in 1977, and it was basically became an institute in this campus in 1987, and it has grown over a period of time. But CCMB ventured into incubation domain through a grant coming from Niti Aayog, which is Atal Incubation Center. And that's when there is another building, which is approximately 2.5 kilometers from the main building, where we had given out 20,000 square foot of space for Atal Incubation Center activities. Since its inception, which was 6.5 years ago, AIC Atal Incubation Center, CCMB, has actually put out 110 startups. The 110 startups have gone through that place.
Nurtured or funded?
Nurtured, not funded, because they were sometimes coming with their own funding. Some were funded. And at this point of time, there are 30 odd startups working there in that space. We have physical space as well as we have space at times where we are actually, their virtual startups too there. So, but in general, it is a place where all the facilities that are necessary for doing good molecular biology research are available. So our startup is specific for molecular biology and, anything cell biology and other things, modern biology techniques, modern biotech biology, rather than for other fields. So it's not...
Rather than general healthcare or something.
It's basically for people who want to develop diagnostics, people who want to come up with better expression systems for getting some proteins and things like that. So essentially something that has an industrial value, people who think they have a very interesting idea, they can incubate in our space and see how far that idea goes.
I'm going to ask some very layman terms so that I understand it and other laymen or women like me can understand it. If somebody wants to do a drug development, would...
Drug development is a seriously challenging work. I'll tell you. Let's assume if I have a target, a protein, which is known to be important for a bacteria to survive. Now I want to do a drug development. It's not going to start there. What it starts with in silico, means in the computer. After the in silico, you have to screen a library of compounds that will whether they are going to stop that protein from functioning. I'm giving it in layman's language. I would have used the word inhibition otherwise. So stop the protein from functioning. So this is actually a more serious effort. And however, let's assume that somebody does this kind of a work in a laboratory. And after that, they have some kind of an interesting molecules, what we call as lead molecules. And from there, you have to decrease the concentration at which the lead molecule works in the context of stopping that protein from functioning in a test tube and inside the biological system, which is cell, a bacterial cell. And eventually, inside a system, when the bacteria, pathogenic bacteria, infects the concerned individual. We can't use individuals. We have to do it in mice and other things. So it's actually an involved process. And there are multiple phases in drug development. So, and it is certainly not something that can be done using the startup kind of a thing.
You need a much larger scale.
You need a much larger scale and you need much more involved processes, because considering the phases, it's not something that can be done
deeper processes,
easily. However, to a discovery level, one can do.
Wonderful. What do you think is India's future in the research and development in molecular biology?
If you really think about our molecular biology or the number of scientists India has or had, say in 90s to today, you will find a lot more productive scientists, productive in terms of the quality of the science that is getting done in India is way better. And the number of institutes that are doing high-end quality research in India has also gone up pretty much drastically up because the number of institutes have opened. For example, now IISers, IITs, institutes like CCMB, NCBS, then you have IIC, TFR, so many institutes are, and IGIB. I've already counted around 8 CSR institutes, and there's so many in DBT. There are around 15 of them. So you consider all these things, the number of institutes has increased, which essentially means number of scientists working on various problems has gone up. So we are, in terms of basically looking and doing molecular biology research, there are many labs are doing it now. The second thing that has changed over a period of time is the technology. For example, prior to COVID, genome sequencing was not something that was routinely used in India. Now, COVID has changed that. So if you really think about it, now there are multiple companies which will do the genome sequencing for you with a cost maybe anywhere ranging for a human, anywhere ranging from 70 to 1 lakh.
And genome tracing and all of that.
Yeah, they can do, they are able to do many things. So in one sense, all these things are kind of, unfortunately, I shouldn't be saying this, but it's actually, pandemic has changed the ecosystem of how these kind of things are done. Okay, so now, given all these things are now already there, okay, but what do we do next? I believe we are going towards a scenario where more and more utilization of these modern techniques is going to come into play, both at a clinical end and of course in basic and in doing molecular biology in the laboratory end. So if maybe not right away, but it may not be very far where a human genome can be sequenced for maybe as little as 20,000, maybe 30,000. See, this is actually going to happen. So would it change the way we are doing or we are treating things? Of course it will. Okay, can we actually have a point of care diagnostics to find out what are you, like let us say you have an infection, you go to the hospital, so we know where the infection is roughly, let's say urinary tract. Can we just take that sample and find out whether the bacteria that is infecting you is resistant to how many antibiotics? Okay, so that changes the way you are getting treated, right? So let's assume that, you go to a clinic and you think you have a suspected of a tuberculosis. Can we identify that whether you're realistically infected with tuberculosis? And if so, whether it is resistant to the existing drugs or not? If that will change the way you get treated. So the way that is one end, clinical end. And obviously these techniques are also going to change the way we address scientific problems, because you have the ability to address scientific problems in higher depth.
Wonderful. Great. I will again want to ask this specifically because you've given me a lot of hope with your answer. How long or how far away India is with respect to emerging as a global leader in research and development in the molecular?
We have to actually look at multiple things. First thing is you have to simply look into the number of people working in a particular area as a research community. At this point of time, we are better than where we were, but we are certainly not comparable. Let's say a country of US, which is approximately a certain size, there are a lot more people working and doing laboratory work, in science. So this will happen, but as aspirations of the society are changing. So obviously everything will change and it depends a lot. Economy, aspirations and the ecosystem together will determine how far we will go. I would say that it is a positive outlook right now, but only time will tell how far we can go to become something better than where we are and most probably become leaders.
Historically, we've seen a lot of our good brains, our good scientists used to migrate to other countries. We used to call it brain drain.
Yes.
Has there been a change in the trend?
I would say that continues to happen. It's not like we are completely, but for example, when I was a PhD student, so you would always think when you're done with your PhD, I was long ago, way back in 97, you straight away used to think, now I have to go abroad for a postdoc, so many years, whether you come back to India or not is really a secondary issue. But almost everybody used to think that they have to go. Now I see that youngsters also think about starting the company in India. I see that they want to, some people stay back. They want to try out few things, which is happening, which wasn't happening earlier. So is it completely reversed? Not yet. Would it get reversed? Again, depends on how the ecosystem is changing in our country versus the opportunities and the money. In terms of the way they get paid there, they get paid here. Because one of the things that has certainly changed over a period of time is our own economy has really become much better. Okay. And the way obviously, the way people who are involved in any particular field, they're certainly getting much better,
support from the government,
reputation in terms of many ways, right. And all these things hopefully are going in the right direction. And if it sustains, let's see. how it goes.
But we've certainly taken a big step
We
in that
are
direction.
going in a positive direction. We have to sustain these things.
What is the vision for CSIR?
Vision for CSIR is something a DG, Director General of CSIR, will answer or can answer. I'm not the right person to answer as far as vision for CSIR is concerned. What I can talk about is vision for CCMB.
Okay.
And I would limit myself to vision for CCMB.
Sure.
So CCMB is a fantastic molecular biology institute and is doing cutting edge science. If we really have to, obviously we have to address both ends, societal problems as well as important basic biological questions. And my own belief is that basic biological questions are as important as the societally important questions. And I believe that CCMB is in the right place to contribute to both ends. And we will continue to strive to do cutting edge basic biology within this organization, as well as use all the modern techniques also to address some of the societal questions. And, eventually we should be able to contribute both ways. In fact, in our history, in terms of CCMB history also, this has been the motto and we've been quite good at it. Because DNA fingerprinting, for example, came out of our basic research, but eventually, Dr. Lalji Singh developed the probes for his work, which were eventually used for DNA fingerprinting, and we were the third country in the world to do so. So
wow.
it is one of the really considered one of the scientifically good breakthroughs. And same way, we have worked on conserving the endangered species, and we worked on coming up with the improved samba masuri rice, and we even worked on things like sickle cell anemia, and these are societal important issues, right? And we worked a lot on COVID and during COVID. So I believe as an institute we have both ends are important, and we are planning to look at both ends. We want to work on rare genetic disorders, we want to work on infectious diseases, and we will want to still continue to do high-end, high-quality basic research that will give mechanistic insights into how things happen in model systems.
So I should take these are the milestones that you have ahead.
This is what we are, and I would like this to become and continue to be what we would be. But what I'm hoping is to do it better. So doing anything better requires people with that level of dedication coming in to do research in CCMB. And so we take these parts very seriously.
What are the areas or projects that you are contemplating on collaborating with AIC CCMB on?
For example, with the AIC CCMB, we have already collaborated and we'll continue to collaborate. One of the things which we can very clearly say is mRNA vaccine. So mRNA vaccine was obviously developed by Moderna and Pfizer around that time. When we started looking into, COVID time, we worked with the AIC, closely with the AIC to actually replicate the technology. I'm not saying novel. So replicate the technology within AIC and CCMB in collaboration. And so this is now going to be used. Now, for example, AIC CCMB is actually coming up with better, lipid particles, lipid particles for packaging and other things. So we can use that as one project for collaboration. There will be others. Right now, just a while ago, we were having a discussion on wildlife, with respect to something called diagnostics for determining what is the quality of a shawl and other things. So there are many other projects. We have already collaborated with AIC CCMB in a few projects, and we'll continue to collaborate. In fact, one of the other things that we have done with the AIC CCMB is decreasing the cost of diagnostics during COVID time. So projects will come up for us. It presents an opportunity to work with them. And we will work whenever there is an appropriate opportunity. Over and above, 4 of our students are currently incubating in AIC CCMB. That's what we want. See, our students know that there is a place where they can test out their ideas. Our students, CCMB students. So these are the things where having in Atal Incubation Center and having CEO and COO of AIC having a close contact or interactions with our people helps.
Wonderful. Any message that you would like to give to not just the viewers, but the whole startup ecosystem in general, and specifically in the biotech or microbiology sector? So that's a loaded question, but yeah.
If I have to say something to anybody who's working on whether it is startup or a good laboratory or anything, I would say focus on the quality. That's one aspect. And, quality is what takes you far. Not something simply, doing something and trying to, do something fast is not necessary. Focus on attention to detail, quality, and retaining the right kind of manpower for doing the work. If we can actually, because I personally believe, and this is actually any institute or any company is as good as the people who are working in that company, right? If you can retain the talented people in your fold, you'll do better.
Tie them with a vision, make them believe in the vision.
I said retain, but you have to retain them in many ways. You have to excite them at times. Maybe you will have to retain in different ways. But basic idea is attention to detail, focus on the quality, and try to keep the right kind of manpower working on your projects. Things will be different.
Thank you so much. Anything else from your end, sir?
No, that's about all I had to say. Thank you.
So thank you so much. Again, this is Shailly Kapoor with Dr. Vinay Nandicoori, and thank you for watching.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.